Perfect. We can start now.
Okay. 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 Thank you so much, Ayushi. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys, wherever you are. Right. So now, welcome to this session or the webinar, as you would like to call it. Now, I begin with this a quick introduction about me, about this, what this webinar is going to all about, and then we guys take it from there. Yeah. So my name is Varun Dharni. In terms of industry or experience, so I carry an experience of 19 odd years now. I've mentored more than 9,000 people worldwide on various topics. But for a while now, we've been largely trying to talk about the safe side. Now, especially if I talk about in context of today's webinar, so this is primarily being spoken about mastering the leading safe, your questions, expert answers. Right. And this is being brought to you by Advanced Agility. And at Advanced Agility, we are one of the gold partners to scale Agile. Right. Let me just try to talk a bit about, do a quick introduction about Advanced Agility as a company. So, Ayushi, if we can just please move on to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. Now, this is a bit about us. Now, we guys have been into training, consulting, right, and kind of upskilling for a while now. It has been more than I would say like 4 or 5 years. We have been into primarily into this. If I talk about the offices, so we are based there in UK. We have offices based in UK, in US, in Australia, as well as here in India, right? So we guys have been uh, primarily into the transformation, consulting, and the training business with respect to safe as particular, but not restricted to safe. Apart from this, we have been trying to talk about a lot of other stuff as well. Right? So that was a quick introduction again. Now, with respect to this particular session, where we are going to talk about leading safe. Right now, leading safe happens to be one of the very critical, I would say, training programs, which is being kind of uh, run by, of course, Scale Agile as an incorporation, one of the previous organization, you can say, which is responsible for distributing the certifications part. Whereas we, being a gold partner to SAFE, we guys are responsible for delivering the training sessions all across the globe. Right now, coming back to the Leading Safe is one of the particular training program which primarily focused on to your again senior management level of folks, or you can say to your kind of senior folks who are driving the change, or you can say in short, who are the change makers, right? So at any given point of time, any organization is planning to launch for the change transformation, or they are willing to go for a change from the safe context. That's where they need to understand first what is safe, how safe transformation can actually benefit their respective organizations. And that's where this particular training program of Leading Safe comes into the picture. While the focus of this entire webinar is not about the entire training session of Leading Safe, but what we are going to talk about in the next slide is the 10 respective safe lean agile principles. Those are key to your safe effectiveness and safe success during your transformation part. Right. So what I'm going to do is, in next slide we are going to watch 10 principles, and we are going to explore them one by one. I will try to talk about a bit about each of these principles, starting from number one, which is taking an economic view, then applying system thinking, and then so on till the last, which is organizing around the value. Right. So what I will do is, I will talk about each of these principles more or less from a layman perspective, so that it doesn't matter whatever domain, whatever industry you are coming from, you are easily able to correlate these principles. Make sense? And if you have any questions for me, right? So feel free to drop your questions in between, and still, so we are going to talk about next 30-45 minutes or so. So I will try to keep the momentum in that context as well. So we'll be picking the few questions here in between, and then try to talk about the remaining principles as well. Right? Okay, perfect. So we start with the first principle, which is taking an economic view. Now, what does this principle mean? Taking an economic view. Think again from your senior folks' perspective, the management, the senior leadership or the management, whatever you would like to call it, right? Whenever a decision making is being done in the context of any of their respective business, any of their respective industry, or any of their respective domains, right? Obviously, the economic part of that, while we are delivering a value towards your customer side, is always of utmost importance. So just to quote, think about name an example. So let's say you are building an e-commerce store, right? So you took two approaches for building that e-commerce store, one being your waterfall model, another being your agile model, right? So just for the sake of argument, let's say while you took that waterfall model approach, it would cost you, let's say, $10,000 to build your e-commerce store. Whereas if you are going with an agile approach or incremental approach, let's say that's costing you $5,000. Now, basis these two different contexts, it's easier for us to understand which way we should go out and build that respective e-commerce store. Obviously, the cost factor comes into the picture. That's your economic view that we are referring to. And this is one of the, again, as I mentioned, is a critical component to any of the respective senior level folks because they are going to drive the business, right? So if they are not able to gain advantage or keep things in control from the economic view perspective, doesn't make sense even talking about the business. Make sense? So that's what your principle number one, which is taking an economic view. Coming to next principle, which is applying system thinking. Now, what does the principle apply system thinking means? Now, if I talk about from the applying system thinking context, now this means a system should think, let me just put it from a layman perspective. Your system thinking is actually an approach to problem solving that views problem as a part of overall system rather than focusing on individual components. So from a layman context, again, your system thinking means what? You must think in a similar manner how your system is going to think. You should focus from the higher level overview perspective, not from each component perspective. So that's the context. While we talk about, again, from the system thinking perspective, we also need to make sure that all those components, when they come together, that's how a system gets performed. Right. So again, a layman example, if I talk about, think about Amazon or Walmart. When we all of our as in customers, we go out and buy a product on Amazon or Walmart, let's say, right? So we are on, of course, on the e-commerce store I'm referring to. So we are browsing the website, then selecting a product, then adding to the cart, and then making the payments. In a small nutshell, if you see or realize these three steps that we are trying to do one after the another, this is a system thinking example. This is how your Walmart, Amazon, their systems are thinking that a customer would be performing these series of steps. In a similar manner, you need to think of system thinking from this context whenever you are looking for any of the respective problems to be solved. That's the context. Think in a similar manner, how does a system work, and then try to solve those respective problems. Make sense? Okay, perfect. Now, moving on to your principle number three, which is assume variability, preserving the options. Right. So again, let me just quote a layman example, or before I quote on that, let me just try to explain this. Assume variability means what? You talk about any of the respective process at any given point of time. Each process will have some variations, some or the other, every now and then. A process cannot run in a smooth manner 100%. It cannot. There are always going to be some variations. But when we talk about those variations, right, so just to make sure those variations are on the smaller side, we need to have the preserves options approach, right? So preserve options approach will make sure that your variations are not large enough. They are always on the smaller side. That's the context. Again, a layman example of principle number three, which is assume variability, preserve options. This would be like think again of e-commerce stores. So let's say you're planning to launch an e-commerce store of your own, right? And you reach out to two different e-commerce agencies, one being your respective let's say one being an agency which gave you an user interface only one in number, just to give you a figure how your e-commerce store would look like. On the other side, another agency, they gave you five different options of how your e-commerce store user interface would look like. Now again, which of these two approaches you are going to go as a customer? Obviously, the chances are that you as a customer, you are going to go with the respective e-commerce agency, which gave you much more options than the earlier one, which only gave that one user interface design. The reason is, out of those five user face interface design, which I'm referring to, you will be able to kind of think and able to reach a more logical decision that which user interface you are going to like, or what kind of small adjustments you are willing to have, and which user interface is meeting your expectations much more closely, rather than in the earlier case where if you are trying to make some adjustments, again that deviation would be on the higher side. Either that deviation would be really on the higher side, or there might almost no deviation. So there are only two options that we have in the first case. But in the later case, you have either the large deviation, either the low deviation, or a deviation somewhere in midterm. Right? So that's what we are referring as in that whenever we are talking about assume variability, go with a preserve options approach. So again, let me just put a different example out here. So let's say if I talk about, let me just quote about GitHub, right? So we all know what GitHub is. So while we are trying to kind of integrate multiple level of codes, right? Whenever integration on multiple level of codes is happening, we are always making sure when integration is happening, your quality and your risk is being taken care of. Because if your quality is getting going for a toss, your risk is again going for a toss. Again, integrating those line of codes doesn't make sense for us, because that will actually impact the last delivery or the value towards your customer side. That's where we are preserving the options in the context of quality and integration approach. So those are your preserve options to make sure variability of having a disaster towards the last while the last value is being delivered to a customer is on the lower side. That's the context. Yeah, makes sense? Okay, perfect. So now let me just move on to the next part, which is principle number 4, which is build incrementally with fast integrated learning cycles. Now, I mean, this is pretty much easy, I would say, so nothing to be talked more in detail. But the idea is the more quicker you are building, the more quicker you would be failing. The more quicker you are failing, the more quicker you are going to learn. That's the context. That's why instead of going with a slow based approach, it's better if we go with a fast based approach. Even if we are failing, we are going to get the feedbacks on a quicker basis. That's the context of principle number 4, which is building incrementally with fast integrated learning cycles. Coming to principle number 5, which is base milestones on objective evaluation of your working systems. Now, again, just to make this principle more easy understood to you guys, right? So let me just quote a different example. So think about any particular day when you are traveling from your home to your office by a car on your road, right? Now, let's say when you are driving from your home to your office, there are 4 red lights in between. Think about those red lights in the form of milestones. If you are reaching those red lights at a respective time, you are going to reach your respective office, which is end goal or the end value, on time. But if you are not reaching each red light on time, the last value, which is reaching your office, is going to suffer, and you are not going to deliver that. Right? That's where we need to deliver the value in small incremental basis, but those small incremental basis should have your milestones. Only then we can actually deliver a more logical value towards your customer side. So that's what I mean. Now, if I talk about principle number six, again, pretty much easy, I would say, making value flow without interruptions, right? So again, it's making value flow towards your customer side. It's just like your scooter or car accelerators, right? So I'm not trying to quote that example as such out here, but in a similar fashion, from the thinking perspective, if we try to understand that. The main reason we have accelerators in our scooters or cars or motorbikes is to increase the speed, right? So basis which the value is being taken care of. We are able to reach the locations at the right point of time. Something similar is the context out here. So in order to make sure that we are flowing the value, we need to remove the bottlenecks there in between. Think again from a layman perspective. Let's say you are driving from your home to office. Within that, let's say a road of 2 or 2.5 or 3 miles in that area, you have, let's say, 5 to 10 speed breakers. Right now, if you have 5 to 10 speed breakers in a range of 3 miles, right, you can imagine again the value delivery would not be fulfilled at the right point. So, in order to reach the office on time, we need to remove those blockers. That's the context. Talking about principle number seven, which is applying cadence synchronized with cross domain planning. Right now, again, let me. So this principle means what? So let me just try to explain this principle with the help of again a layman example. So let's say you are based in US and you have a connecting flight to here in India, right? And you plan to fly from US, then to yes, let's say UK, and then to Dubai, and then to India, right? So that's how your flight schedules are planned, right? Now, in order to reach India on time, you need to depart from US. Then, of course, there would be some layover period, right? So again, I'm assuming that if you are able to reach, uh, let's say UK airport on time, then again you will have some layover period, right? So you will try to take some rest and then take off the next flight. But what I'm trying to focus really on is that when you are trying to move from US to, let's say, UK, you are as a customer, but the flight reaching on time is not in your hand. That's where the respective airlines is coming into the picture. They are making sure those synchronizations that your transit from US to UK is smoother enough and you are not able to miss your next flight. In a similar way, your agile teams and your agile release trains, they are working with each other. While they are working at their respective levels to deliver the values individually, but they are also in sync with each other on a continuous basis. That's what where we are talking as in cross domain planning, right? So cross domain planning means what? Two different teams getting in sync with each other in a very beautiful manner, so that the value delivery again towards your customer side is not going for a toss. Make sense? Okay, so then if I try to jump on principle number eight is just about unlocking the intrinsic motivation of knowledge workers. There are actually two kind of motivation which is required for your knowledge workers, right? One is what we are referring as an extrinsic motivation, another being your intrinsic motivation. While we talk about intrinsic motivation, right? So intrinsic motivation means what? The desire to deliver the respective value or work, whatever you would like to call it, to the level until you are not internally satisfied. That's the context. right? So let's say again, let me just quote a couple of basic examples, layman examples. Let's say you are joining a software company as a fresher, right? So you have hardly 1 or 2 months of years of 1 month or 2 months of experience. When you join that company as a fresher, right? So you know that that company is giving you each and everything what is required in that respective environment, and you are feeling good and proud about that. And then you are doing your best to make sure whatever can be done best from your side to deliver the work which is given to you. So again, what I'm trying to focus really hard on is your internal satisfaction. So out here in this context, SAFE usually talk about three parameters. One is autonomy, then we have mastery, and then one is there more. But my apologies, I'm not able to recall that right now. But what I'm trying to quote is these three factors are largely the parameters which are internally responsible for motivating your employees. Right? So that's the context talking about principle number eight. Talking about principle number nine, which is decentralized decision making. Again, decentralized decision making means what? Think about the roles of Scrum Master or a release train engineer. Right now, as we all know, these two roles are primarily responsible for facilitating your respective iteration level of event, or you can say the PI planning level of event. Or from the other context, if I talk about Scrum Master is responsible is also the coach and mentor of your agile team, whereas your RT is the coach and mentor of your art agile release team. While I quote about these things, what I'm trying to quote is they are letting the team members go out and try to find the solution with respect to what problem they are facing. So, as a coach or as a mentor, you are not directly giving them the right solutions, but you are what you are trying to do is you try to create an environment where your team members are then finding by themselves what should be the right solution. And this is only possible when we are giving away the powers. Again, a layman example of this would be think about the COVID period. Almost every organization across the globe, they ask their employees to work from home. When employees were asked to work from home, they were also given the leverage of logging in and logging out from the systems as per their own convenience. That's where the decision of giving away the powers came into the picture. And that's your principle number nine, which is decentralizing decision making. Then on to the last one, which is organizing around the value. Now, this means what? Organizing around the value means what? So, primarily, what has been seen mostly, again, if I talk about in the context of agile teams, or if I talk about the context of agile release train, what happens is every now and then you will see a company or a business consists of multiple different departments, right? When you consist of multiple different departments, you of course will find people finding it much more easy to communicate within the same department. Whereas the challenge comes when two different teams start communicating from two different departments, two or more different departments. Right? So when you have two people coming from two different backgrounds or two different departments, the communication is not easy. That's where your silo starts getting formed. And when you have silos, your value delivery goes for a toss. That's where what we do is we start pulling out people from different departments, and then we form a virtual team here in safe context. Once we have that virtual team, then we use that virtual team to deliver the value. As a result of that virtual team, what happens is your silos are getting broke. When you have silos getting broke, obviously your value is being taken care of. So that's your principle number 10, which is organizing around the value. Yeah. Okay. So, guys, I think that was a quick about those respective principles from my side. So I'm now open for the questions. I would like if any of Any one of you would have any questions, so I can try to answer.
Thank you, Varun. That was amazing and very insightful. And I hope all of our audience, I am definitely sure that the audience over here liked it. Now I can see a series of questions being placed in the Q&A section of my Zoom.
Sure,
And with that, I'll take the lead and I'll just place one every question in front of you.
sure,
And so I'll just go with the first one. The
sure.
first question is, what does the Leading Safe certification training cover?
Okay, perfect. So to answer this question of yours, Ayushi, so if I talk about the Leading Safe program in context of this, so primarily it covers all the principles that we just spoke about, the 10 Lean Agile Safe principles. Then we are also talking about Lean Agile mindset, Agile teams, what is an Agile use train. Then we are also talking about your Lean Agile portfolio management and how do we scale the leadership. I hope I have answered your question, Ayushi.
Yeah, yeah. So this question was from Nupur. And
Okay.
I'll move ahead. And the next question is from Mark. His question is, how can organizations implement an economic view in their decision making process?
Okay, perfect. So now, if I have to answer this question, so there is one of the very important prioritization tools that we are using here in safe context, what we call as an WSJF, right? Weightage shortage job first. So using that prioritization technique, we are able to prioritize your respective portfolio backlog epics, or you can say your features, your stories. And in that context, when we are able to prioritize those, then it becomes much easier for us to take the economic view consideration in that context. Apart from this, organizations they are also implementing an economic view by prioritizing work based on the cost of delay using economic models. Right. So again, while we are talking about your cost of delay, that's pretty much again connected to your WSA, the prioritization technique.
Okay, okay. I hope that answers Mark's question. And along with that, Mark, if you have, if not only Mark, all the participants over here, if you still have questions, we have a chat book open 24 into 7. You can anytime come up to our website and place your questions. Our experts are there to answer all your questions.
Yeah.
Moving ahead, the next question is from Mary. Her question is, why is system thinking important in safe implementation?
Okay. Perfect. So really nice question. So one of the reasons, or primary reasons, of if I have to quote, would be like your system thinking. This actually helped in identifying and addressing the root cause of your issues, ensuring that your solutions do not create new problem elsewhere in the system. That's where your system thinking plays an important role. So again, from a layman context, if I have to quote this, so the idea is that once you are able to resolve any of the respective problem, once that problem has been resolved, because of that problem which exists earlier, another part of your system should not get not should not go for a toss. That's the context. We need to have system thinking in place.
Okay, okay. So this is clearing my, this webinar is clearing my a lot of doubts of mine. So I'll move ahead because we have a very limited time. We have already reached the 30-minute session.
Sure.
And okay, so the next question is from Amit, and he wants to know, how do objective evaluation milestones improve project outcomes?
Okay. So now while we talk about your objective evaluation, right? So this is again pretty much in line to your principle number 5. So out here, what we are trying to talk about is like your objective evaluation. So these are ensuring your decisions are based on real progress, helping identify issues early and providing opportunities for your course corrections. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. So I won't take a lot of time of yours. There are few more questions, and I'll just proceed with them so that
Okay.
each and every question is of our participants is being answered.
Sure.
So Rahana wants to know, how can value stream improve organizational efficiency?
Sure. So Now, if I talk about organization efficiency, right? So, in order to make sure that value delivery is being taken care of from the customer's context, so we need to look out for what are the bottlenecks or the root causes or the delays which are not making your value flow in an easier manner. That's the context. So, if you are able to identify those root causes, bottlenecks, or delays, whatever you would like to call it, then if we are able to do that, I would say 90-95% of your problem is being taken care of from the efficiency perspective. Also, this is where your Kanban systems play a huge important role, because using your Kanban systems is, it makes us much more easy to visualize how the flow of value is taking place.
Okay, that's amazing. So now Joshua has a question related to the Leading Safe exam, and he
Mhm.
wants to know which topics are covered in the Leading Safe exam.
Okay, so from the examination perspective, I would say, like, of course, safe core values, then lean agile principles, PI planning, which what we also refer as in your planning interval, right? So then agile teams, agile release trains. So these are some of the topics which are coming to my mind, which are there for sure in your examination part.
Okay, so moving ahead, we again have a similar question related to the exam. This is
Mhm.
just now someone typed in.
Sure.
It's an anonymous person.
Yeah,
So they
that's
want to
okay.
know who should take the Leading Safe exam.
Okay, so well, as such, I would say, like, there is no as such criteria, honestly speaking, but anyone who is planning to know or learn more about SAFE, apart from obviously the change makers who are trying to change the respective the transformation within respective organization, the senior folks, right? So are the good audience to go for this certification. So exam would ideally cover, or I would say would be a more great fit for your executives, managers, and the change makers.
Okay, so with that, everyone, I have shared the link on the chat box for the booking of Leading Safe training. You can join Advanced Agility. There are certain different offers going on. You can enroll yourself and take the benefit from our experts. Moving ahead, Shaumin wants to know, are there any prerequisites for attending the Leading Safe training program?
So as such, I would say there are no prerequisite, but if you have, let's say, 4+ or 5+ years of experience in the software development or the IT industry, that should help really. Yes.
Okay, okay. Um, Jasmine wants to know,
Mhm.
how will this training, Leading Safe, benefit
Mhm.
an organization? And this is the last question, by the way.
Sure. Okay. So now, if I talk about leading safe training, so this training is going to help organizations a lot. Primarily, if I talk about, first would be the alignment context, then of course the quality transformation, delivery speed by providing a structured approach to your scale agile practices all throughout, all across your enterprise, I would say.
That was an amazing session, Varun. Thank you so much for taking time and planning out this entire webinar for all our participants. And I hope everyone enjoyed the session and they are planning to purchase the course with us. So I've shared the links on the chat box. You can directly click over there. If you
Yeah.
still have questions and if you still have certain things that we have not answered in this particular session, feel free to drop your questions, your queries in the chat box in Advanced Agility's website. The website link is advancedagility.com, and we have many new webinars coming on different agile prospects, different agile principles, and courses. Feel free to join them, they are all free, and talk to our experts. With this, we'll be ending the webinar for today, and
Thank you
see you
so
in the
much,
next session.
Ayushi, for having me here, and thank you so much for your contribution as well.
Thank you, Varun. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.
Good day.
Good night.